Hey folks, so a few of you on Facebook were asking me about my pastel weathering technique. There's nothing really terribly complicated about it. It's kind of similar to what you would get with, say, a Tamiya weathering kit. However, this is going to be a little cheaper and it's going to give you some more options as well. And I use it to kind of get this effect. It's sort of a dusty rust effect. It's got a little more texturing than you might find with a typical just sort of paint wash. And what I actually use are chalk pastels. And I got about 4 trays of these for less than $10. So it's going to be a lot cheaper again than your typical weathering kits. I've already done the top side, but fortunately I have not done the bottom side yet. So what I'm going to do is go through that today and show you guys my technique. So I'll get my pastel chalk tray out and I'll just get like a little mixing cup and grab some good old H2O. And what I'll do is I'll take a color, and I tend to prefer this color right here. Gives a good rust effect. But actually you can mix a couple colors in there and it gives it a little more depth, but that's certainly up to you. That's more an artistic kind of thing. So what I'll do is, pardon the camera work, I'll just scrape a little bit of this off in here. You don't need a ton, just a little bit like that. You kind of see it. So we're going to add water here, and part of the trick to this is not adding too much water. You don't want it to be soupy like a paint. You want it to be more muddy, really. So it doesn't need much water at all. Just a couple drops really will do. And actually I may have put too much water in there. So what I'll do is I'll just add some more pigment in to kind of even it out. Again, I apologize for the poor camera work. This is kind of my first instructional YouTube video, so it's a little crude. Okay, that's a little more the consistency I'm talking about. So you want to get a brush. It doesn't really matter what kind. I'd get like a flat brush or a chip brush. I've just kind of got this sort of broad flat brush that I like to use. And you can kind of use that to mix it up. And again, you want kind of a muddy texture. And this part, when you're applying, is going to be very similar to what you would do with a typical paint wash. You're just going to get it in all the little creases here and just go nuts. Just get it all in there because we're going to wipe a lot of this back off. But definitely be sure to get it in all the cracks. Because the idea, as probably many of you know, is with weathering, is that it's gotten dirty and you've cleaned it back off, but you haven't been able to get into the nooks and crannies that well. So really kind of mash it in there real good. Let's see, for instance, like this bolt, I might want a smaller brush next time. And I also just kind of put it all over the place because it's going to look weird if you got shiny parts. So I'm going to go back in and get a little bit more. I might have to make some more possibly, but we'll just see. Again, just get it in there real good. I think I'm going to need to make some more, possibly. It's already drying up, and this stuff dries pretty quick too. Once the water's evaporated, there's really nothing else in there to kind of keep it wet, so it dries up pretty quick. So the next thing you want to do is get your cloth and wipe off most of the excess pretty quickly, actually, because this stuff dries on here. Now another good thing is that since it's not technically paint, it's just a pigment. If you do get too much on here, you can just get a wet cloth and wipe it back off, because this stuff will come off pretty easily with some water or even with your fingernail. It'll scratch off pretty easily, which also means you're going to need to seal this with some kind of clear coat after you're done. Either like Krylon. I like to use Tester's Dull Coat. this cloth. Just see what I can do with that. Yeah, see, it just comes right back off. And so that can kind of help you determine the level of dirt and grime you want on here. If you just want a little subtle bit, you can wipe a lot of it back off with the cloth and everything, or you can just leave it on there caked like you want, however you want to do. This is for my Mandalorian cosplay, and we tend to like a lot of dirt on our stuff. So I'll probably grime it up pretty good. So again, I'm just going to add like a drop of water to this, and then mix it up with my paintbrush. Make sure I've got kind of that muddy consistency. That's pretty good. So I'll just get kind of these remaining cracks and crevices. Get all in these bolts. Kind of give it a good wash too. Really kind of grime it up. And what you can do too is, after you put on one initial color, you can go back in and put on like a secondary or a tertiary color, however many you want. It seems to work better when you do separate colors at a time rather than mixing them in a single wash. So if you wanted like some carbon scoring or something, you could come in with a darker color like a black after you do your initial rust color. So that's really come out pretty grimy, which is what we want. So kind of the look I'm going for in this particular build is, I'm just going to put some water on here. Let's roll this around. Kind of the look I'm going for with this particular build is that I just kind of maybe left this in the rain a couple times. And it's gotten a little bit rusty. Not terribly rusty or anything. It's not like a relic. It's just kind of something my Mandalorian carries with him. It's kind of well used, but not necessarily abused. So, alright, so there you get the idea. And that's pretty much it, other than I'm going to put a clear coat on this side, probably some kind of dull coat, so that this stuff doesn't scratch off. Because once this pigment dries, again, it's not like a paint. It's not going to stick to anything on its own, so it'll scratch off pretty easy. So you'll need to seal it up if you want this to stay like this. And I have already clear coated this side, so everything's on there. It's not really going to come off too easily. And again, if it does, you can always come back and apply more. Anyway, that's the technique. I hope that helped somebody out there. If you guys want to see some more videos, I'm actually thinking about starting to do more tutorials and things. Probably mostly around painting and finishing, things like that, but who knows, we'll see. But yeah, if you guys want to see some more stuff, let me know. Thanks.